Hey everyone, this is Chris, and you're listening to One Cross Radio. And today we are joined by nobody. It's just me. Although Luna the Adorable is sitting right behind me. I'm up in the attic recording. What's funny is I'm recording one episode, hoping to take about a half-hour break. So I do have to put a time limit on this thing, and then going to be recording another episode later on. And I recorded one last night, so 3 episodes in less than 24 hours is a new record for me. I do hope, and I will assure you, that they're all of quality. And I'm not going to tell you which one is which, so you can't judge. So today's episode is one I alluded to a couple episodes ago, where I said I'm going to talk about the Clone Wars. And at that point, I wasn't sure how I was going to do it. And the thing is, I think I've settled on... Oh man, I really can't words. I think I've settled on a good idea where in today's episode, we're talking about the final 4 episodes of Clone Wars Season 7. And as it stands, the final 4 episodes of the Clone Wars, period. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if they end up bringing back the show in a micro-series way, or just an anthology maybe, because this show has had 2 cancellations, or maybe, no, 1 cancellation. They aired the last episode, so then it's like, well, it's not canceled, but this is where it's done. But then fan demand was so strong that after Rebels, and still greatly timed after The Last Jedi was what it was, and then after Solo, where it's like, oh, hey, fandom, look, here's this thing you love again. So Clone Wars has had 3 series finales, which is bonkers, and all 3 of them have been good. This one is the best one. Now, before I get in, I do want to give a particular shout out to 2 people. One is our friend Nathan Marchand from the Monster Island Film Vault. Actually, this is going to be 3 shout-outs, maybe 4. Nope, it's 4. So Nathan Marchand from the Monster Island Film Vault, he and I have been talking a lot about Clone Wars lately, so it's been a lot of fun. So check him out. Check out his podcast and his writing. It's all great stuff, and I look forward to doing stuff with Nathan soon. Shout out to our good friends over at Redeemed Otaku, Bex and Tim. They are fantastic people and great friends and great brothers and sisters in Christ. Shout out to our dear friend Pastor Hector Mirai from Faith and Fandom. Hector, you were awesome to chat Clone Wars with, and then you actually got me to give Rebels another shot beyond 2 episodes, and I'm digging it more now. So thank you for that and your friendship. Yeah, and you know what? Hector dropped dime, so I can too. Hector also let me share something that was on my heart and put a chapter into Faith and Fandom Volume 7, which I'm so excited for you guys to be able to read. That's all I'm going to say. It's just I've known for a while, but now that he's dropped dime, I can talk about it, and it's crazy exciting for me because I love Faith and Fandom, and now I get to contribute to it as well, which is just it's awesome. And final shout out, and this person in particular I doubt is going to hear this shout out, but friends, do yourself the favor, look up on YouTube and on Spotify Samuel Kim Music. On Spotify, there's a lot less stuff than there is on YouTube. I'm not quite sure why, but Samuel Kim does some amazing epic remixes and orchestral versions of known music. Some of the Star Wars stuff he's done, which you can find on Spotify, is just phenomenal, absolutely outstanding. But then he's done some other great stuff. There's music that none of it I'd say is skippable, but then there's stuff that just for me stands above. His Spider-Man mixes are phenomenal, but one in particular is that I need to shout out is his version of the X-Men theme. He's done one where it's primarily based on the 90s X-Men cartoon, and it's outstanding. It weaves in the Fox theme, First Class, but mostly focuses on the '90s cartoon theme, and that's what the fans want. So Kevin Feige, I'd be even more surprised if if you heard this, but on the off chance you do, hire this man. Look up his stuff. He will give the fans what they want musically. Okay, so on to today's episode proper. There will be more Clone Wars and Star Wars episodes in the future because there's just so much content. You could deep dive about the final 4 episodes, each episode, just with how rich they are with theme, with mood, with atmosphere, with references, with everything. But I'm going to focus on the final 4. Now, that's not to diminish the preceding 8. Episodes 1 through 8 are 2 different arcs. They're the Bad Batch arc and then Ahsoka's arc. And each did a good job because each of them really helped set up the characters for where they'd be in Ahsoka's case in the final 4 episodes. But then also in Anakin and Obi-Wan's case where they'd be in Revenge of the Sith. Because the final 4 episodes sync up with Revenge of the Sith. And friends, oh my goodness, was this just such an outstanding call. I cannot compliment it enough. The prequels are what they are, but the Clone Wars before, I would say, made them better. And they fleshed out things in a way that the movies should have done. Or I get it that it's a series in comparison to a 2.5 hour long movie. So there's length that you can and can't do, but still, the movies could have done a better job. Even though I enjoy them more now, especially with those anti-cheese cuts. But this, oh my goodness, like, as we're getting into the episodes and we start syncing up with Revenge of the Sith, it adds so much mood and so much dread to it that it hits you. Because the thing is, with Clone Wars, even though the trailer hinted at, like, we're going to be tying into Order 66, what I wasn't fully anticipating was just how much. Now, earlier I mentioned I've been talking to Nathan, and one of the things I liked about it was even though it did tie in to Revenge of the Sith and Order 66, it didn't go too chaotic with it. Because as much as I would love a micro series or a short season based on Order 66, like, sign me up. I will watch every episode with bells on. Like, I am in, because it's such an interesting and sad story. They didn't go overboard with it. Clone Wars really did become, and I'd argue Rebels, even though Rebels is about Ezra and the Ghost Crew, Rebels did also, I'd argue, become to an extent about Ahsoka and Darth Maul, and Vader to an extent. The Clone Wars really did become a show about Ahsoka Tano, a show about Darth Maul, a show about Rex. And yes, it was about and prominently featured so many other characters. But with the finale really, really focusing on those 3, I think that was the right move, especially within the last 2 episodes. If we went down the Clone Wars hole too much, sorry, give me one quick sec. Okay, sorry, and we're back. Just had a quick thing I had to do suddenly, and I realized I was saying the wrong words. If we went down the Order 66 rabbit hole too much, where we went to other Jedi and saw all that, I do think it would have lessened the impact of the story being told in episodes 11 and 12, where as Ahsoka and Rex are coming to these realizations and feelings, like, we get to experience that with them. Now, we, the audience, know more stuff, but I think if you even handed us more, would have lessened our chance to connect with those characters within that moment. All right, so the other thing I loved about these episodes is how cinematic they were. I am absolutely convinced that in some way, shape, or form, this was originally designed to be a movie. Just because more so than any other episodes of Clone Wars, I feel like this was designed for audience interaction, specifically in theater audience interaction. Because it didn't necessarily do things that Clone Wars hadn't done before, where Clone Wars did character death and sad moments and big out loud cheer moments. But there's so many times in these episodes where there's a beat after it where I'm like, that is for you to jump out of your chair in the theater going like, yeah, and break into applause, or murmur or gasp or be like, oh crap, or towards the end bawl your eyes out. It's just, there's so much there. And the way the episodes start are, you get the classic Lucasfilm green. It's different from how all the other episodes start. So the Clone Wars started with a movie, a bad one. And I think maybe the intention, maybe strictly for down the line as a DVD, but maybe originally for something like Star Wars Celebration, as it was intended to end on a movie as well. Because even how the episodes end and begin, you pick up the next episode within the same scene, or immediately after, like 2 seconds after, not 5 minutes, not any stretch, like immediately after. It's supposed to be all one long story, and oh my gosh, it's so good. The themes in which you go into this, it's so interesting. As I said earlier, the preceding 8 episodes needed to get these characters to where they would be for this story / Revenge of the Sith, because this is a companion piece to Revenge of the Sith. Ahsoka, having left the Jedi Order at the end of season 5, after being framed and then feeling the Jedi Council kind of betrayed her and threw her out to just be a political appeasement kind of thing. Sorry, I'm sipping some tea. Tossing her that way, like, she of course felt betrayed, and then she left, and then her story, and I get where fans are coming from about it maybe being a little, some found it boring. I get the criticism, but I still enjoyed it because it showed where she would be, where she's out amongst the people, away from the bureaucrats, away from the stodginess, the bickering, the debating, the hesitancy that is within the Jedi Council, and she's just with people who are doing at times bad things just to survive, and she's seeing how the ordinary citizen in the galaxy has completely lost faith in the Jedi, that the Jedi aren't who and what they are supposed to be. They're now just basically a military or private police force for the Chancellor, and nobody has faith in them. And Ahsoka is now doing good, and some people are finding out she's a Jedi. They're like, if more Jedi were like you, we would have faith in the Order. And that informs where Ahsoka is, because in the 9th episode, you get that reunion with Anakin and Obi-Wan, and it's tense, and I love that kind of thing, because even though Ahsoka and Obi-Wan had a fantastic relationship in the show, Obi-Wan really does, to an extent, especially in this story, represent sometimes the hesitancy, the rigidness of the council. We have to do things by the rules, and there's conflict there because Ahsoka's going to Anakin and Obi-Wan for help with I can't remember the character's name, but Satine's sister, who is part of Death Watch on Mandalore. This whole arc is called the Siege of Mandalore, and then she's challenging Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan's being like, I have to take this to the council, and then she's challenging him, and he's at points like, that's not fair, and she's like, I'm not trying to be. And that's really interesting. And then Anakin's playing peacemaker. There's so many good moments, because even though things are tense, you get some great character stuff with Anakin and Obi-Wan, where Anakin's been questioning and upset about Ahsoka walking away and leaving. And then when she comes back, he's just automatically like, this is this was the will of the Force. This is what's supposed to happen. If she didn't leave, then we wouldn't have found Maul. She wouldn't be going to help. We wouldn't be doing this, and this makes perfect sense. And I loved that, and that's a theme worth exploring later because so many people, Christians included, can do that kind of thing where it's trying to force their view and their hope as God's will, or in Anakin's case, the Force's will. And there's so many touching moments of Ahsoka reuniting with the clones. At first, she's like, they shouldn't be saluting me as commander, and Anakin saying, hey, they know what you did for them. They've fought with you. They've seen how you've cared for them and saved them. Loyalty is a huge part of what the clones are, which is a great little hammer home for later. And then when she meets the 501st, the battalion, she first meets Rex, but then all the clones in that hangar have painted their masks, their helmets, like Ahsoka's face. And that's just such a great and touching moment. And this is where it gets really good. Because right then, as that happens, Obi-Wan comes rushing in, and they're jumping into hyperspace to be within the hour to Coruscant because the council has called them in. The Chancellor's been abducted and the Separatists are attacking. So we are right at the start of Revenge of the Sith now, which is just so good. And then because that's when suddenly you're like, oh, you thought maybe we'll get references to Order 66 or some of it maybe as the epilogue of this episodes or so, but no, it is taking place concurrently with it, which was just such a great choice. And then it really does explain why Obi-Wan and Anakin aren't going on this mission. So then Anakin gives Ahsoka her lightsabers back, but he's changed the crystals from green to blue. And then they work out a deal where Ahsoka's no longer part of the Grand Army, so she can't command, but Rex is going with half the 501st and Ahsoka's going as a consultant to Mandalore because Maul has returned to Mandalore, and he is kind of running things from underground, and it's really interesting. I did that. I did not too long ago a quick thoughts video about how I loved what they did with Maul in the Clone Wars, bringing him back, how much they added to him, and then even on the quick thoughts video from a couple weeks ago about the Phantom Apprentice episode 10. Oh man, like just it was a stroke of genius, and these episodes would not work nearly as well without Darth Maul. So then as you're getting to Mandalore, there's this amazing sequence where, again, I'm like, this was designed for the big screen, where the Mandalorians under the puppet Prime Minister and Maul's control go out to attack the Republic forces, Death Watch, and the Jedi. As they're flying in, Rex says to Ahsoka, I'm sorry, I don't have a jetpack for you. She's like, I don't need one. Race you to the ground. And then she jumps out of the ship. She's flying through the air, not flying, but gliding with style through the air and taking out Mandalorians and getting to the ground. And it's just such this awesome sequence that as she lands on the ground before anybody else, and then a ship that was crashes and explodes behind her, there's an audience, like, that's an applause moment. And then it's such an apex, and that's within the first 10 minutes. So the episode keeps going. We're getting some good stuff. But where it ends is a great spot of she's found Maul down in the sewers, and then he's like, he was looking for Kenobi. And that's of course that's who Maul would expect, because Maul's just bent on revenge with Kenobi. But then you find out in the next episode that Maul was hoping for Kenobi and Skywalker, and not to kill Kenobi, but because Maul had visions and a sense of dread about this whole thing. At points in the second episode, and Sam Witwer gave a career performance as Maul in that episode. You're finding out Maul knows what's about to happen. He doesn't fully know about Order 66, but he knows about the Clone Army. He knew about the Clone Wars. That was revealed when he came back, and he knows that Sidious has a plan that probably involves the clones for the destruction of the Jedi. And there's just so many good moments in this episode. Oh man, like I already went in depth in the quick thoughts, and I haven't talked about the next two yet, so I'm gonna try to condense a little bit. But some of the key moments in that episode, I think, were after Ahsoka talked to Maul and Maul revealed Sidious and the fear. When she ended up escaping and then trying to find him and couldn't find him, when she debriefed with Obi-Wan, that moment where Obi-Wan's like, she mentioned Sidious, and then Obi-Wan revealed what they knew, which was very little, except Dooku had mentioned Sidious in Attack of the Clones, and then he's like, but we can't ask Dooku any more questions, basically, and she's like, why? He's like, Anakin killed him while we were rescuing the Chancellor, which then gets you like, oh. And there's a brief moment where Ahsoka seems a little bit shocked, but then moves on. And then she asks if Obi-Wan's coming to help. And then he's like, I can't. I'm on my way to Utapau to find Grievous. And then she asks about Anakin. And then he's like, Anakin is on a mission to spy on the Chancellor. And there's this great conversation where she's like, he's not going to like that. He's been a father figure and a mentor to him. And there's just so many things here where you're just like, oh man. Oh, because what I love about this episode is, going in what's going to happen to all these characters. But then the show brilliantly, just phenomenally brilliantly, adds all these parts where you're just like, what if she just believed Maul? Like, if she was like, hold that thought. I need to call Obi-Wan now. Come with me. Or we need to communicate with him. We can stop this. Or Obi-Wan was saying, like, asking Ahsoka to talk to Anakin, and she did not get the chance. But it's just like, what different, like, the chance to actually sit, like, oh man, if she had contacted Anakin and talked to him and calmed him down, because she's no fan of the Jedi Council right now. She's not going to sugarcoat their behavior, but she does have an even perspective that Anakin does respect and grown to appreciate. Like, if she got that chance, maybe, just maybe, Order 66 would be stopped. And just those additions are so fantastic, yet so heartbreaking. And that's the last time we see Obi-Wan. And the last time we saw Anakin was in the last episode, running off to the council, running off to save the Chancellor, which is what Ahsoka said in Rebels was the last time she saw him. So now what I loved about that is finding out that that's where they are. The reality is really sinking in, like, we're going to experience this. We're going to experience Order 66. And it's coming. It's coming so soon. So then the episode, as it keeps going, you get so much great and rich stuff. Maul flat out knows everything that's about to happen. He even says, like, I didn't want you here. I was hoping for Skywalker. He asks Ahsoka to join him, and she says, yes, but I don't think it's for the dark side. He's making his case, like, together we might be able to stop Sidious. And she's trying to say, like, but the Justice and the Council and all that, he's like, this is done. They are gone. They will be dead. The Republic, as you know it, is done. It's crumbled. It's gone. Even though it hasn't happened yet, Maul knows. And then after she agrees to join him, she asks, what did you want with Master Skywalker? And then he says, like, Sidious has been grooming him this whole time. He will become his new apprentice. Like, so much death will be on his hands, basically. And then Ahsoka just flat out refuses to believe him because of her love and respect for Anakin, which is, again, another moment where you're just like, oh, if she had listened to him, like, you get why she didn't, but if she had stopped to listen to him, maybe this could have been different. And this is the thing I love about these episodes. They just add so much more to what happened, that the tragedy of Order 66 and the end of the Clone Wars and the culmination of the Sith plan just gets so much richer and more tragic. And then there's just this amazing lightsaber fight. Ray Park did mocap. I'm so sorry, I just can't remember the actress's name. But the one who was in The Mandalorian, she was the person who made the armor. She did mocap for Ahsoka, and it's an outstanding lightsaber fight. And then the episode does end with the siege of Mandalore being completed and the capture of Maul. And then Maul is just like, as he's being captured, like, just let me die. Like, we're all dead. Don't you get it? We're gonna burn everything you like. He's terrified. So then we get to the next episode, which does start on a slightly lighter note. The final light note, which was a great way, because it's this very briefest of celebration that they've captured Maul, and now they're taking him back to the council. Ahsoka's asking about Anakin and if Rex connected with him, and I can't remember exactly where it is, but like she just missed him, and he was on his way to do something. He had connected with the council. There's a great meeting incorporating stuff from Revenge of the Sith where Mace Windu was like, I sense a plot to destroy the Jedi. So Ahsoka was kind of there, and there was more Jedi stodginess towards her, and a moment where she could have expressed to Yoda her concerns about what Maul said about Anakin, but she chose not to. So again, adding more. But then as they leave in the Republic ship and they're going to Coruscant, then you get lines from Revenge of the Sith from the moment that Anakin ends up aiding Palpatine and killing Mace Windu. And there's just some great stuff, because Ahsoka's suddenly like, Anakin, what did you do? And it just hits her because she's sensing it. Maul is in this borderline Hannibal Lecter chamber kind of thing. And then we get the call of execute Order 66. And this episode has such substantially less dialogue than other episodes, but it's all the better for it, because there's just so much confusion for Ahsoka about why this is happening. And then Rex, right before he starts shooting at her, other clones circle her and aim their rifles. And then he's like, I'll do it. And then right before he starts going, he references Fives, who was a clone who, I think it was maybe Tup and then Fives. But there, in season 6, there was a clone whose mood chip, or whatever it's called, it got infected somehow, and then he executed a Jedi before. He went right into execute Order 66 mode, and then Fives became aware of it and the whole conspiracy, but then he was shot. He was killed. Nobody believed him or took him seriously enough. So Ahsoka's then fleeing through the Star Destroyer. The music from when Order 66 in the movie was happening, or when, actually no, it was when Anakin was wiping out the Trade Federation and then standing on the bridge looking all sad with the Sith eyes but the single tear, which was a great choice. Oh man, it was just above and beyond. And then Ahsoka's like dodging people. She releases Maul, and he's like, won't you give me a chance to defend myself? She's like, I'm not trying to have you to defend yourself. You're the distraction. And then you get hallway sequences, not just one, but various sequences of Maul wrecking battalions of troops with clones. Like, he doesn't have a lightsaber. He is throwing doors, panels through clones, and it's just awesome. Ahsoka eventually finds R7, her old astromech droid, and a couple others, and they help her. She's able to stun Rex and basically get the chip out, which leads to a great moment of they're camped in the med bay. The droids have sealed the door, like cauterized it, or solderized. Anyways, and it's just so good because it adds to the tension of the clone battalion is trying to break in, and she's like, Rex, like, how many of this is how many, like, how big is this, like, what are we looking at? And then he's like, it's everyone in the Grand Army of the Republic. It's everyone, which is just, it's so good. And then we get to the final episode, which I love so much. Again, there's not much dialogue. There's so many great action scenes of Maul destroying the Star Destroyer. I love how focused the story becomes, because it really does become on them, which is, I think, what it needed to be. As much as I would love more stuff, like I said earlier, it made you feel what was happening so much more. And even though you know these characters survive, because all three of them show up in Rebels, which that's the only thing, but that's not the fault of anybody. It's just how it was. It just would have made other moments even more tense. But it's still so sad because you're dealing with these other clones that you know that you've grown to like, these characters who are now suddenly forced to be evil. And they're just programmed that way. You're getting such great music, such a great plot where Maul destroys the hyperdrive room. At one point, he uses the Force to use one clone to shoot two others. He's throwing people at each other. He then escapes, leaving Ahsoka and Rex on a Star Destroyer that, because of what he's done, is destined to crash on a moon. You get so much great stuff. The three droids who are helping them get killed, which has a brief sad moment. And then you get this awesome sequence where it seems like, how are they going to get out of this? They're not going to, which, even though you know all of these characters are going to live, they still give you those moments, which, like I said, if we didn't know because of Rebels before, I think that would have made it even more tense. But then almost, I think, I don't know for sure, but to me it reminded me a lot of one or two sequences from the not old, but the Force Unleashed video games, where you're diving through the air to catch up with someone. But then also in the second one, when you're diving from a ship that's crashing to the land, there's a sequence where Rex is trying to catch Ahsoka as the Star Destroyer is crashing, and it's such a good thing. And then it ends solemnly, and I don't think there's words for the last like 3 or 4 minutes. And then the Star Destroyer crashes, and then we get a moment where in front of the crashed Star Destroyer, Ahsoka has made graves for so many of the clones, and it's just these shots of their helmets with her face on in front of the on sticks as tombstones, which hits hard. And then as it goes on, she drops her lightsabers, and that's the last you see of Ahsoka. Now, her canon novel, I think, does fill in some of the blanks, but I loved that. And then something even more, which I was like, you get to the planet, you're back on the planet, there's a shot of an Imperial shuttle landing. You have no idea how long it's been, but long enough, because the planet's covered in snow. There's snow troopers, but then there's Darth Vader, who says nothing. It's just the iconic breathing. And then as he's walking around, he comes across the crash. They're checking out this crashed Republic cruiser, what you would now call a Star Destroyer. And then he comes across Ahsoka's lightsaber, and it's just silent. There's him looking at it. He turns it on. Maybe some sad incidental music in the background. He looks at it. You can see his eyes through it as he's looking up in the sky, and all of it, I think, is just like him feeling it and contemplating about the fate of his apprentice. whether or not she's dead, but believing she is. And that's powerful that you didn't get any dialogue. And then he just turns around and walks away. And then you get the shot of, as he's walking away, his reflection in the visor of one of the helmets with her face in the snow. And that's how the show ends. And it hit me the first time I watched, but especially on the second time I watched. I'm not going to lie, I almost cried. I was tearing up just because I was talking with some friends about this afterwards. And what I loved so much about this is some of them were saying like it grew on them because they were like wanting more emotional resolution. And I'm just like, I don't think that was the story. And we know ultimately what's going to happen with these characters. We know what's ultimately going to happen with Vader. We know that for the most part, these characters, all or most, have happy endings. But this didn't even give a hint of that. This just ended so somberly. And I don't think there was any other way to end this. And I loved that. Star Wars so much is about the hope. Even in the darker movies and stories, they end on cliffhangers that still give you hope. Hope for redemption. Hope for finding Han. Hope for a new hope, as Revenge of the Sith ended. This didn't. This had such a bleak ending. Because now, everything that happened in the Revenge of the Sith happened. But Maul escaped. The clones that we loved are dead. After they turned on their friends. The Jedi are dead. Ahsoka's running. Anakin, who got developed into such a great hero and fantastic character throughout the show, is now Darth Vader, the character that we know and love, but we know what he represents. And that's where it ends. It's such a bleak ending, but so powerful that it just hit me. It hit me so hard, and still does, where I'm just like, oh man, I'm getting emotional. And that's where the Clone Wars succeeded so well, where the prequels didn't. It made you so much more invested and flushed people out that the clones aren't just a faceless army. Even though they all look alike, they all have individual personalities. All the Jedi got so developed. So many people got so developed that when they did their actions, it hit you. And the show deserves so much credit, and these last episodes in particular, for taking other great characters but making them some of the best characters in the entirety of the franchise. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. These 4 episodes, the entire Siege of Mandalore arc, for me, it is the best Star Wars that has come out in... you know what? I might say the best Star Wars that's come out since Return of the Jedi. And there's been so much that I've loved. Even the stuff where I don't enjoy it as much, or even though time has made it gotten better, i.e. the prequels, hopefully the sequels. These 4 episodes are, I would describe them as utter perfection. And just the best that Star Wars could possibly be. It is. They are so good. It hit me so much, and there's so many themes and such an atmosphere and such a somberness that it just hit me so much. Yeah. Okay, so that's where I'm ending it, because I'm just going to repeat myself. But let me know in the comments, what did you think? How much did you love these episodes? Which one of the 4 is your favorite? To me, it's weird. As much as I say, I don't want to say any one is bad. None of them are bad. They're all great for their own reasons. But I think the one that stands out the most to me is episode 10, The Phantom Apprentice. It is like, all 4 are amazing and worthy of a deep dive. But I think that there was just even more in The Phantom Apprentice. It was just that step beyond as well. But let me know in the comments, what was your favorite of the 4? What did you think of the series finale of Clone Wars? Did it hit you like it did me? Did it make you want more Clone Wars? Did it make you excited for more Star Wars? Yeah, let me know. All that being said, I hope you had a wonderful day. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. God bless, my friends, and take care. Peace.